Hello, I'm Jim Posner, and welcome to another edition of the Don't Panic Project. We provide conversations to help empower, inspire, and educate people suffering from stress, anxiety, and depression. Today's guest is Eduardo Placer. Eduardo is the founder of Fearless Communicators. Fearless Communicators is a dynamic public speaking coaching business that empowers leaders and change makers. Their unique methodology arms individuals and teams with the tools to push past their fear of public speaking by embracing the courage of public sharing. They approach the event of sharing at the intersection of mind, body, and voice so that participants learn to speak from a place of power as opposed to a space of panic. So actually, before we start the conversation, some people might be saying, hey, why are we having a public speaking coach on the Don't Panic Project? Well, the simple answer is public speaking always ranks second when surveyed about things that cause the most anxiety towards people. And I think it ranks second behind people's fear of death. So
I think it's greater than people's fear of death. People are more afraid of public speaking than they are of dying.
I think I've heard that actually, which is absolutely insane in my mind. But that's why we have Eduardo here. He's an awesome public speaking coach. I've worked with him, so I know he's going to help people quell some of that anxiety that surrounds that fear of public speaking. So welcome to the Don't Panic Project, Eduardo.
How perfect.
All right. And Eduardo and I are actually friends. We've known each other for a while now. So, before we dive into, kind of hacking the fear of public speaking, could you tell us a little bit about, your journey and how you
totally got
to this point?
Yeah. Well, so I always start with second grade. It seems like it always starts in second grade.
Me too.
Hashtag me too. So it started in second grade. And it was show and tell, and I was really excited. I had this stuffed animal seal named Sammy, and I was really excited to share about it. And my parents had gotten me the stuffed animal when they were visiting San Diego. They'd gone to the San Diego Zoo, and I lived in Miami, Florida, born and raised in Miami, Florida. And I stood up in front of the class, and I held my little Sammy the seal, and I said, seals are mammals. They live in the water, they eat fish, and sometimes they're eaten by sharks. And I just practiced this thing, and I was just so excited, so ready to share. And then it went so well, I thought, that I decided to go off script and share something else. And then I looked at the class, and then I said, and I named him after someone in this class. And the kids were not necessarily interested in my Sammy the Seal conversation or anything about the seal. But the moment I said I named him after someone in this class, everybody was like, what? And then I said, I named him after Brett MacGyver. Now, the name of the seal was Sammy, and then I chose, for some reason, to tell my second grade class that I named him after Brett MacGyver, who was the blonde popular boy in the class that I had a crush on. So I basically outed myself in second grade in Miami, Florida, and the moment that I said that, I could just feel myself wanting to put all the words that I just said out back inside. And as you know, you can't do that. Once you say something, it's out in the world. And the moment that I said that, and I experienced what I experienced up there, I said to myself, I am never going to do that again. I'm never going to speak the truth, because when I speak the truth or I say something that is authentic, it's dangerous, it's scary, and nobody likes me. And what happens, the statistic, it's pretty crazy. It's 75% of people have speech anxiety. And I think it's greater than that. I think 75% of people have speech anxiety and 24% lie. There's 1% in my experience of people who are like, oh my God, it's the most exciting thing ever. I absolutely love it. It's so amazing. I don't get scared. I don't panic. I get excited.
Yeah.
And the feeling of excitement and fear, it's very similar. It is a paradigm shift. It is a shift. And for me, even as a public speaking coach, as somebody who's devoted my life to this work and empowering people to have a new context around their speaking, I'm still afraid. Fear is still present for me. That's why my business is called Fearless Communicators, not Fear Done Communicators, right? And the fear, and what happens is that when you speak, and get that there's no such thing as private speaking.
Right.
It's all public speaking. Anytime you're speaking, it's public. right?
Very true. Yeah.
So
Never
like the
public.
difference between us two having a one-on-one conversation, like this is public speaking, me speaking in front of a group of 5 people is public speaking, me speaking in front of a group of 20 people is public speaking, me speaking in front of 2,000 is public speaking. And what we're always managing is what our fear is based on what we think other people are thinking about us. And the general gist of it is that either we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not attractive enough, nobody believes us, we're a fake, we're a phony, we're a sham, and that's the context. So the fear and the panic, and what happened is like we had some experience in our past when either somebody said that to us or we believed that people thought that about us. And we're going to do anything possible to not relive that again. The pain of that, and it's not physical pain, but the emotional pain, the emotional trauma of something of that, like that, is something that we're not willing to relive again. And that's what the fear is.
Right. So it's actually, you're equating the fear with this vulnerability. Definitely, right? Mm-hmm. I know what I do now when I teach mindfulness, the first thing I actually do is I kind of open up with this very vulnerable story about a difficult time I went through. And that's how I kind of found mindfulness and so forth. And it took me a long, long time to be able to go there and talk about this very personal time in my life and show that vulnerability. But what's amazing is that I found once I showed that vulnerability, it created this kind of openness. And I think a lot of people can relate to being, to having some sort of vulnerability. And,
totally.
And,
it's what we're craving as human beings because it creates connection.
That's exactly it.
The moment you lead with vulnerability, the moment you're open, there's a place for us to come in. If you're like this, then there's no place for me to land as a listener, as a friend, as a colleague.
That's so true. Once you show some vulnerability, you said you're open. It creates connection, because everybody has their vulnerabilities, and many of us, especially in the West, we typically tend to put up these walls and try to hide behind these things, and put out this aura that everything's fine and we don't have any issues and so forth. But as my wife likes to say, everybody has their, and it's so true.
And listen, we're all covering. There's this exercise that I do where I have people identify what their limiting self-belief is. And listen, the panic is like the root of the panic, that people are having in public speaking, I think comes from some experience or some belief that some experience is going to happen, right? Which is like an assault on your self-worth or your belief in your being, right? So some people are like convinced that someone's going to say something negative about them, that they're going to make a fool out of themselves, that it's not going to go well. And I do this exercise where people identify them. People are sharing real traumatic moments where they stood up in front of a group of people, and it was college, and they gave a presentation and they blanked out, and the teacher said something. I have a client, she was in 7th grade, and she answered a question, and the teacher looked at her and said, "That's really stupid. Are you autistic?"
Wow.
She never shared again.
Wow.
She told herself she was stupid. And then she did terrible in school. And then it wasn't until 15 years later when she was getting a master's in family therapy at Columbia that she finally got over it and was like, I'm not stupid. Because some asshole, pardon my French, teacher said something, whether the teacher was intending to be joking or not joking, whatever, who cares? Whatever it is, that person said something that was painful. And she believed it. And then she said, I'm never going to speak up again because I'm not going to relive that trauma.
So, Eduardo, how do you get over this fear of showing your vulnerability when you're speaking publicly?
You got to do it.
Just do it. Right.
So there are two things. So the most important, and it's so funny. I think a practice in meditation is really useful. You know, because you're unchaining the brain, unchain the brain. You know, to quote you, it really is. It's a mindset conversation. And for you in meditation, what's the foundation of meditation? What is the most important thing for you when you're meditating? What are you connecting to?
Well, it's awareness of your thoughts and your feelings. And when you bring that awareness, then, when you recognize that awareness, you move to an anchor when you're starting out, when you're starting out, which is many times your breath and breathing.
It's your breath. Same thing for speaking. Because we forget to breathe. And then we have an experience of because what happens is when you're up there, you're panicked and you stop breathing.
Absolutely.
And then you hyperventilate yourself. Then you speak really fast, your hands start getting sweaty, and you forget to breathe. The most important thing for you to do is breathe. And like being in some type of ritual, one of the things that I love to do is I have my clients write down what the negative self-belief is. Because it's like a way of identifying the thought. And again, it's something like, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't belong here. People are going to discover me. I'm a sham. I'm not worth it. I'm fat. I'm ugly. All of it.
Right. Just to interject. So I'm in a networking group with Eduardo, and Eduardo's run some little workshop exercises in the networking group. And to describe this exercise, he passes out a piece of paper and says, everybody write down a self-limiting belief that you have. And everybody writes down their self-limiting belief. And then he instructs everybody to crumple up the piece of paper, turn your backs to the circle, and throw the piece of paper over your shoulder. Mm-hmm. And everybody goes and picks up a piece of paper. So presumably you're picking up somebody else's piece of paper. And then he goes around the room and has people read what's on the piece of paper. And without fail, 90% of the pieces of paper say something like, I'm not good enough, I'm afraid of failure, I'm too fat, and all of these are different ways of saying, really, I'm not good enough. And it's interesting because, the group that we did it in, there were 50 people, and every single piece of paper had some version of I'm not good enough on it. So, as a mindfulness teacher, mindfulness is awareness. So just bringing this awareness, this is a great exercise to bring awareness to the fact that, you are not the only one that feels this way. Everybody has that same self-limiting belief of I'm not good enough. What if I fail? And something along those lines. So just being a part of that simple exercise and bringing that awareness to the fact that, everybody feels this way. It instantly kind of just makes you feel better. That,
and then what you do,
this is normal. And
you write it down. And then in that exercise, you read other people's, but if you're before a big meeting or before a conversation or before a conversation that you're scared of having or before a presentation at work, you just write down whatever that limiting belief is. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't belong. They're going to discover me. I'm a sham. You write it down and you tear it up. You rip it. And the moment that you rip it, all of a sudden there's a space. You actually create space. It's just and there's breath, and then when you say it out loud, it's that's not true. It's when you say it out loud, you're just oh my God, it's not true. Look at, and there's some little editor / micromanager / boss or something who sits on our shoulder and just feeds all of this negativity. And listen, our brains, are built to protect us, right? So,
yes.
We have 4 emotions. It's fear, anger, sadness, and joy. But there's fear, sadness, anger, and then joy, right? So it's there's not a lot of room. You got to really exercise that joy muscle because everything else is fear, sadness, and anger.
Yeah.
And it's all this need to protect, and we're not in a cave protecting ourselves from woolly mammoths, and saber-toothed tigers anymore, and also as human beings, we're not intended to be in conversation. I mean, we're built to work in tribes, not, posting in front of millions of people. We're not built to be communicating at the scale of millions. Like, we're just not built that way. So it takes a mind shift to do that. So part of it, and I think around the panic conversation, it really is, it's an exercise, and I think there are an array of different opportunities. I think joining a networking group like we're in, BNI, every week you get to practice in front of 50 people. So you get to be in the practice of it, and you realize it's just really not that big a deal. You're not going to die.
Right.
And then you start, I think Toastmasters is a great opportunity, just any type of opportunity that has you practice in front of a group of people, doing improv comedy, taking a dance class, like doing anything that gets you out of your comfort zone so you stop fearing looking like an asshole. Because our biggest fear, pardon my French, is people looking like an asshole. They're afraid of making a fool out of themselves. And if you surrender and are like, I am just going to be who I am authentically, and I don't give a rat's, about what other people think about me, in that context, then all of a sudden you have freedom. And there's nothing more enrolling. There's nothing that people are more gravitated to than somebody who just appears free.
No doubt. And I mean, heck, we're all afraid of being judged by other people, and that is right up there with the whole "I'm not good enough."
Yeah,
that's the root.
There's a great line that I learned, and I was an actor for over 15 years, right? So I've been rejected a lot of times. So it's like, I was in a business, in a profession where you show up and you're vulnerable and you give your gift and you share your thing. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm laying this out here, and it's a no. And it feels so, like the first time it happens, the rejection is just like, oh my God. And then it's like, I did 3 today and I got rejected from all of them. It's like in the dance of it, it loses the significance of it.
But, I think that's a metaphor. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine who actually works on Broadway, and he was talking about the whole tryout thing and rejection. And he made this point, which I think it's obvious, but I've never really been part of the theater, and I just haven't thought about it like this, is that, what? I could be rejected because I'm not the right height. I'm not the right color. I have the wrong accent. It could have nothing really to do with me. So I can't take it personally, and I just move on. I work hard and know that I'm good at doing what I do, and enjoy it, and just go on to the next one. And, that's what you have to realize with so much about life, actually, is that, it's not necessarily about you. If somebody doesn't relate to the presentation you're giving, maybe it has nothing to do with you. Maybe their mind is off, worrying about something else that happened yesterday or tomorrow, or, you just have to kind of get past that. So,
and listen, Jim, where did you go to college?
Cornell.
And I went to Penn. We're overachievers. We are hyper perfectionist overachievers, and like perfection doesn't exist. It's not real. It is some fallacy. We as human beings set up some type of 100% is not real.
Yeah, it's true. You always that fear of getting on stage and just, looking really vulnerable. And it took me a long time to.
Yeah. And listen, you know what we love? We love watching a hot mess.
It's true.
We love watching a hot mess.
Because it's relatable.
It's real. It's real. Everyone else is hiding that everybody's got everything together. And it's actually not interesting.
And it's funny, as I get older, a lot of close friends, you realize that everybody who maybe you think were leading these perfect lives, whatever that means, things maybe start to unravel
they're
for
cheating
some
on the
people.
wife, and everything's a failure.
Yeah,
Or they're
exactly.
impotent and they can't have kids, and she's not happy. Or
Exactly.
she's
Again,
cheating on him with her gym coach. I mean, it's like it's
it goes back to everybody has their shit,
everybody has their shit. Everybody has their shit, and
No
everybody's
doubt about
pretending that they don't have their shit. And if you just deal with the fact that everybody has their shit and your shit is perfect and you're just dealing with your shit, and we're also on a sliding scale. This is so much fun. We're all on a sliding scale of just being better.
No doubt, it's a journey. But hey, you know what? I want to bring it back actually now to the actual act of public speaking and getting on stage. So you talked a little bit before about this exercise of writing down your fear on a piece of paper before you get up on stage, or get up to speak to whoever it might be, and ripping that fear up, and that creates this space. We also touched on breathing as a great mechanism for grounding yourself and calming yourself. So can you talk a little bit more
You want to talk about the Zorch, don't you?
I do, but first let's talk. Do you have like a good actionable breathing exercise?
Yeah, totally, absolutely. So yes, so this is where I'm gonna introduce you to the Zorch. So I'm gonna have I have my headphones on, okay? So, and you're just gonna see my chest right now.
Right.
So your Zorch is right here.
Hold on. I like to participate in these things.
Yeah, so it's right below your belly button. It's the lower dantian in Eastern medicine. So it's right below your diaphragm.
We're headless speakers right now.
We're headless speakers right now. And what we want to do is you want to activate the Zorch, because most people are very shallow breathers. So they're breathing into their chest.
Right.
Right? And that's part of the reason why you hyperventilate.
Yep.
So what you want to do is so I want everybody to do this. You're going to put your hands on your Zorch, and you're going to inhale, and you're going to exhale on a shh sound, like an SH. And I want you to feel the Zorch, like just the source of the.
Hold it. So do I need to do this with my fist?
No, but I'm doing that just so you get an idea that that's
okay.
Like you want to feel that engaged. You want to feel the Zorch being engaged. Okay, so you're going to inhale. Okay, so we just did that. Now, what I want the people who are doing this with us to identify for themselves is, are your knees locked?
I always lock my knees. That's a good.
Always lock your knees, and 99.9% of you who are doing this have locked your knees. Okay, and what happens is that when you stand, this is what they do in the military. Don't lock your knees, because if you lock your knees, you pass out.
Huh.
So one of the reasons why people have like a major panic attack is because they're hyperventilating themselves because their knees are locked. So you want to unlock the knees. So that doesn't mean like walking around like this, because that's really strange and weird. But it's a difference between having the knees locked, like your elbows are locked, and letting it go, because then all of a sudden there's room for fluidity and for breath and energy and blood to flow. Okay, so with the knees unlocked, you're going to inhale and you're going to exhale on a shh again. So inhale. And then what I would do is I would start connecting body to breath. So on an S sound, and then move your head, other direction, shoulders, shake out your body.
So Eduardo, you as a professional speaking coach, I know in the beginning you said you still get nervous, normal. So you really kind of go through this this protocol.
Always. It's a ritual.
Awesome.
Always. And it's a ritual, right? So that was really fun, Jim. So it's a ritual. So anything that's and I have a whole physical vocal warm-up that I do with people to teach them. But what you really want to start doing is activating your body, connecting it to the breath, right? So anything that gets the body rolling, and an S sound is really great. Like warming up your spine. Shaking it out. Blowing out your lips is really great. Shaking out your body. And after I shimmy, I like to say Azucar, because I'm Cuban.
Yeah. Azucar. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Your lips is really great. Some people can't do that, and guess what? You have lip tension. Dear diary, you found out today you have lip tension. There are parts of your body that you carry tension. The lip is part of it. The jaw is another place where we carry tension. Our tongue, our larynx. So you really just want to give attention to and connect. And it's all about breath. It's all about connecting the breath to the body. So not just like nose and lungs, but also getting the whole body engaged so that the body is like enlivened with oxygen. That's what we want. So then you're oxygen filled for the opportunity to step up into the space of communicating. And when you're speaking, what are you doing?
Well, I guess to relate it back, you're using oxygen, and
yes,
so
you're exhaling.
Exhaling.
When you speak, you're inhaling, and you're exhaling. Language, right? So
right.
Like language is on the breath.
So as a mindfulness instructor, what you just kind of went through is this whole mind-body connection also. And that is a big, big theme with meditation and mindfulness. We tend to harbor a lot of stress. Stress and anxiety really manifests itself in different parts of the body. Like you were saying, the jaw, people tend to grind their teeth, or back and shoulders, a lot of tension in the gut. So, by bringing awareness, and that's what you're doing with those exercises, is you're actually just kind of bringing some awareness to these parts of the body and loosening them up, and bringing awareness to breathing properly, because like you just said, it oxygenates your body properly and nourishes you and relaxes you. Tons of research on breathing into the diaphragm having a direct correlation to relaxing and lowering blood pressure and heart rate and anxiety.
Yoga or meditation, all of that breath bait, it's all that. And the thing that happens is when we get up to speak, we panic and we forget to breathe.
Yeah, it's so true.
That's why you think you're dying, because you're suffocating yourself.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been up and in front of people and not been able to breathe. And I felt like I was going to lose control.
And that's not why you're not dying because you're speaking. You're dying because you're not breathing.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And it can be terrifying.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember one of the first presentations I gave after I started my business a couple of years ago, in front of a whole group of teachers, and I was talking about mindfulness and how it helps. And I got up there and I was shaking. I had to initially read something, but I was overcome with the stress and anxiety. And thankfully, I was able to right that ship. I guess I just started to breathe for whatever reason, that I was able to flip that switch. And I then became so relaxed, and I actually really came alive. And I felt like I was all of a sudden really connecting, and I felt like I was actually in this place where I belonged. It was incredible. It was this 180-degree flip where I felt like I was honestly going to, keel over from a panic attack and completely blow this opportunity. And I went to the breath, and I instantly was able to calm down and just flip the switch and ended up rocking the presentation. But so it's just,
and I think it's a place to stand, right? Because what happened is like you went away from yourself and you started focusing instead on your audience. And that's what happens when you're in a panic conversation. It's all about you, and there's nothing less interesting for an audience than you having something to do with you. Right? Like it's not about you, it's about them. Like they're there because they want something for themselves. Like they want to get something for themselves, and you have an opportunity to be a contribution to that. So I think the more you get out of your head and focus instead on why your message is important, like why you're committed to telling a story, why you're committed to sharing, then it's all about that. It's all about your audience. It's all about making a difference. It's all about service. It's all about generosity. It's all about making a difference. And then it's outside of you. It's not about you. It's outside of you, just like your breath, just like your voice. There's There's a reason why, we speak on our exhale and not our inhale.
Right.
Could you imagine if we spoke in our inhale, it would be all about us? I just realized that. That's actually really, like you can't. It's not about here. It's about, it's the exhale. It's all about connecting. It's all about releasing. It's all about giving. It's all about out.
Hey, so to actually kind of switch it a little bit, I want to ask you, so you always hear these stories about people to help them when they're on stage. They visualize the people in the audience, sitting in their underwear, or it's kind of silly things like this. Yeah. Anything to that?
No.
Nah.
But because the thing is that separates me from my audience. I'm not interested in, some people just focus on, they're all wearing their underwear, and I was like, that's silly.
I've never done it. I've never kind of.
I don't think it's real. I don't think it's real. I think it's like some hack that people taught, and I don't think it works. Because I think that it actually makes you like ridicule the audience, and I'm not.
It puts you on a different level. Yeah, that makes sense. And you don't want to be on a different level.
I'm not interested in being a different level. So what I do, there's several rituals that I do. One is I absolve myself of perfection, and I really focus on who am I being for my audience. So who I'm being for them is generous, loving, engaged, powerful, inspiring, connected, committed. It's like focus, and then I can just focus on being that, and like I create a whole new context for the speaking. So like, because I'm being committed, connected, and inspiring, the experience that they're going to have is like one of connection. They're going to have an experience of being heard. They're going to have an experience of like unbelievable value. So, because what happens is we think the audience is thinking what we fear about ourselves. We're like convinced that they're thinking like that the game is up, that they've figured it out. So we're afraid. We're afraid to prove them right, which actually has nothing to do with what they're thinking, because they're thinking, wow, I'm really excited. I can't wait to hear this person speak. Or, wow, I got into a fight with my wife and I'm really pissed off. Or I just had Chipotle and I need to go to the bathroom. Like, who knows like what they're thinking?
Right.
But we're convinced to be mind readers, and it has nothing to do with anything. So I can, like, as a mind reader, like I can just create a whole new context. And I can create what I think they're thinking. And whatever I think they're thinking is like awesome. They're interested. They're excited. They're genuinely, ready to share and compelled and empowered. And that's my listening of them. So then I'm only speaking to that. And then so what I do is I absolve myself of perfection. This is what I do. I was raised Catholic. So I do the sign of the cross 3 times. And then I say, I do the same thing when I fly, right? I do the sign of the cross 3 times. And then, I say, I love you. And the love you is to me, but it's also to them. It's also to the audience. I'm interested in speaking into love. I'm not interested in speaking into like, you're different than me, or you're less than me, or you're all a bunch of assholes who forgot to wear your clothes today.
I love that, that you kind of say to yourself, I love you to the audience, because...
and don't forget, I say I love you to myself.
And yourself, right.
Because it's not like a fix. It's like, I really love you, and you really have something important to say. And I love you. I love the audience too. The direction of my communication is love. You've heard me speak before. Do you have an experience of love when I speak, when I share?
I'm sorry.
Do you have an experience of love when I speak and I share?
I do. Yeah. No, I can feel, again, I've known Eduardo for a while, and I just always feel that when you are speaking, you are really authentic, and that whatever it is you're talking about, you truly want to impart that wisdom and knowledge to your audience, and you want the audience to be able to benefit from whatever it is you're putting out there.
And it doesn't mean that I don't have a thought that comes up when I was like, you're too much, or that was really silly, or that was stupid, or you shouldn't have done that. Right. It like shows up, and it's like...
That's human, right? We all have little judgy thoughts that happen. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. So, Eduardo, I know that we are getting close to your time limit here today. So I really, really want to thank you so much for your time today. And again, Eduardo Placer from Fearless Communicators. Eduardo, can you tell our audience how they can get in touch with you?
Totally. So you can go to my website, www.fearlesscommunicators.com. You can also find me on Facebook at Fearless Communicators. And then you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at Stand for Fearless. And listen, I have a special something which I'll send you the link to, which is on courageous storytelling. So it's a free 3-part mini series, little web thing, and it's on courageous storytelling. So a lot of the stuff that we talked about is in this thing, and it's just an opportunity for them to just really get, one, why you tell stories. You know, like, what's the big reason? Like you have to commit to something before you speak. Then you have to construct something powerfully, and then you have to connect. You know, so it's all about this audience-focused speaking. It's all about giving up whatever limiting self-belief you have, creating a whole new context. And look, it's the holidays, festive Christmas Kwanzaa. You know what I mean? So it's my pleasure to impart that to your community so that they have a real breakthrough in speaking powerfully.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Eduardo. And to my viewers, thank you for tuning into another edition of the Don't Panic Project. Conversations to help empower, inspire, and educate people suffering from stress, anxiety, and depression. You can look me up, Jim Posner, at The Mindful Advantage. Hope everybody's doing well, and we'll see you on our next episode.
And thank you for doing the amazing work that you do, Jim. You're an absolute gift, and he's he practices what he preaches, and you're just like all heart. I absolutely adore you, Jim.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and right back at you, brother.
I love you. Bye.
All right.